Hi there, I'm ET, here to answer the question, what is Deadlock? Deadlock is a third-person shooter currently in development by Valve. Known for their genre-defining games, the Steam distribution platform, gaming hardware, and hosting some of the world's largest esports competitions, Valve are a prolific PC gaming company. While their history is not without incident, over time they have developed a reputation for high-quality and consumer-centric practices. As a private company, they operate with more autonomy than their competitors, and Valve's current owner and co-founder, Gabe Newell, has been a titan of the PC gaming industry as long as it's existed. His work at Microsoft, porting Doom to Windows 95 back in the day, has even been credited with bringing gaming to Windows. So, the people behind Deadlock, they know what they're doing, but what is it and why are they making it? Valve's main multiplayer titles, Counter-Strike and Dota, have retained popularity for over a decade. However, like a game of chess, when you play a game of Counter-Strike or Dota, you know what you're in for. They're genre-defining titles that haven't seen major gameplay innovation for over a decade, and that's the way the communities like it. But that isn't very interesting if you're a game developer wanting to experiment and innovate, and this is where Deadlock steps in. As a new game and IP, it has served as an experimentation playground for Valve's developers and designers, where they can pursue their ideas with relative freedom. The game has gone through many iterations and even changed settings entirely from a cyberpunk world to the ritualistic 1940s steampunk noir vibe that we see today. The passion of the team creating Deadlock is clear. The characters, world, voice acting, it's all full of character and style.
But if I'm listening, I can't ask them questions like, what's your favorite color? And why does bread taste good? And do you think cats would smoke if they had thumbs?
Life's hard sometimes.
It is.
The gameplay is just as unique, melding multiple genre-defining mechanics, and this is what makes describing Deadlock so difficult. At its core, Deadlock is a third-person shooter. However, as a player, this feels inaccurate as the game is also a movement shooter, a hero shooter, and a MOBA. So let's chat Deadlock. Set in the Cursed Apple, an alternate timeline 1940s New York, magic, science, and dimensions collide as two teams compete in an eclipse ritual to summon their patron. As of the most recent update, Deadlock now has two game modes, the main competitive 6 vs 6 mode and the faster-paced 4 vs 4 mode titled Street Brawl. If you're new to MOBAs and want to dip your toe into Deadlock, Street Brawl is the place to start. It simplifies a lot of the macro MOBA mechanics, putting you straight into the action so you can play and practice your micro mechanics while getting a feel for the game and its characters. Micro mechanics are your moment-to-moment decisions, how you move, your weapon aim, and ability usage. These have a big hand in determining how it feels to play Deadlock. So let's discuss your character, weapons and abilities, movement, melee, and damage types. By the end of the current event update, there will be 38 characters, each with 4 unique abilities, an individualized weapon, and a unique array of statistics and passives. This means that every character plays very differently. As an example, let's have a brief look at one of my favorite characters, Infernus.
You got an eye for talent. I'll give you that.
Infernus is a second-generation Ixian immigrant, born and raised in New York. He survived working for the Mendoza crime syndicate and now spends his days working as a bartender at Jezebel's for his friend and boss, Hank. Infernus' motive for taking part in the ritual is to save Hank's bar to repay Hank for saving his life. Fern's weapons and abilities all relate to his powerful control of fire. Given this natural proclivity, his hand serves as his weapon. Infernus reloads by giving his hand a chance to cool down. His third ability, Afterburn, is a passive ability tied to his weapon, each shot from his hand applying stacks of Afterburn, with headshots stacking faster. Upon reaching max stacks, the target becomes afflicted with Afterburn and takes damage over time for 3 seconds. The duration of Afterburn can be refreshed by continued hits from his weapon or other abilities. Infernus' first ability, Napalm, applies a slow and increases damage taken from Infernus by 20%. His second ability, Flame Dash, is a powerful movement ability that leaves a trail of fire. Infernus' fourth and ultimate ability, Concussive Combustion, applies a stun to all enemies near Infernus after a 3-second delay. Each ability can be upgraded 3 times, dramatically improving the ability, but choosing which ability to upgrade depends on how you want to play the character. Infernus is typically played with a focus around his weapon and Afterburn, but he can also be played with more focus on his abilities. Using the extensive item system, there are many viable ways to play each character, and with 38 characters to choose from, you're sure to find many playstyles that you enjoy. So, you've got a character, now it's time to get moving. In Deadlock, you can dash, duck, slide, dive, you can jump, double jump, wall jump, climb walls, mantle slide, hell, just do whatever you want. There are also zip lines and jump pads to get you around the map. Learning how and when to use each movement mechanic is essential as they don't come without risk. Dashing can be performed on the ground or in the air and gives instant momentum. However, it requires the usage of stamina, a finite resource that recharges over time. Stamina is also required to perform a dive, double jump, or dash jump. Dash jumps require 2 stamina and precise timing indicated by a blue flash on the stamina bar. Slide by holding crouch when moving down terrain or whenever you have enough momentum, for example after a dash or dash jump. While sliding, your character has unlimited ammo. They eventually slow to a stop, but this can take longer for some. Holding crouch after climbing a wall will let you perform a mantle slide, giving you some extra momentum. Your first wall bounce is free and will launch you into the air, but continued wall bounces will cost stamina and provide no additional momentum. Ziplines and jump pads give you immense mobility around the map, but being hit when you start using one will stun you. Learning when and how to use these mechanics in your play is incredibly fun and rewarding. There are many more advanced and character-specific movement techniques, so be sure to check out the Deadlock Movement Wiki for more. That's right, there's an entire wiki just about movement. Movement in Deadlock is a core extension of player expression and skill. The best will use the movement system to push their characters to their limits, escaping the inescapable, winning the unwinnable, and beating the unbeatable. So you've got your weapon, you've got powerful abilities, you've got the moves to get you where you need to be, but what happens when you're out of ammo? Your abilities are on cooldown, you're out of stamina, and you've got nowhere to go.
You stand your ground and fight. Fight? I don't know how to fight. Just think of someone you hate. Come on, man.
That's right, Deadlock features a full melee system. It's high risk, high reward, and an option that is always available to every player. You can even build your character entirely around fighting with your fists. Melee in Deadlock features 2 attack types and a parry option. Tap your melee button to perform a quick melee, or hold it to perform a more damaging but telegraphed heavy melee. If you melee someone that is parrying, you will be stunned and take increased damage for a few seconds. Going for a heavy melee is high risk, high reward, but can be done safely if an enemy has already used their parry or is stunned. You can also bait out an enemy's parry by going for a heavy melee but turning away to avoid hitting them. This creates an interesting mind game where you can keep your opponent guessing. Quick melees can be weaved into your attacks to provide near instant damage with no telegraphing other than your rapidly approaching form, but if an enemy predicts your melee correctly, it might be lights out for you. Taking on melee brawls for no reason has been affectionately called burger boxing after how a certain region has used it in the past, but we won't hold that against them. Damage in Deadlock is split into weapon damage, orange text, and spirit damage, purple text. For a deep dive on damage types, resistances, and the math behind damage calculations, visit Yapistism on YouTube. He shows his calculations and reasoning while keeping it entertaining. So, those are the micro mechanics that define Deadlock gameplay. As I said before, Street Brawl is a great place to practice and try new characters without the added complexity of the main game mode's macro mechanics. And it's these macro mechanics that make Deadlock's main game mode a MOBA. So, what is a MOBA? MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. Popular MOBAs are League of Legends, Valve's own Dota 2, Smite, and the abandoned child of the genre, Heroes of the Storm. MOBAs typically share many macro mechanics and require destruction of the enemy space to win. Deadlock's mechanics follow this trend, but have evolved to meet Valve's vision for the game. Traditionally, MOBAs have teams of 5 players, Deadlock has teams of 6. Characters in MOBAs generally fall into an archetype somewhere along the tank damage support spectrum, and only fill one role effectively. In Deadlock these roles definitely exist, but they're not as limiting. Most characters can be played effectively in a few roles, meaning that character synergy becomes more meaningful than just filling a role. Character counters do exist, but most are also counted by items, so it's uncommon for a game to be entirely lost in draft. During a game of Deadlock, your character will grow in power, gaining souls by winning fights with enemies, destroying objectives, and farming troopers in neutral camps. Souls are a measure of your character's power and act as both experience and gold. As souls are acquired, your character levels up, unlocking abilities, receiving ability points, and stat boons. Collected souls can be spent on items in one of the shops around the map. Items provide stat bonuses and powerful passive or active abilities to complement your playstyle or counter your enemies. With over 100 items, I recommend following a build through the in-game tool while learning. Experimenting with builds is one of the best parts of Deadlock, but it does require knowledge of items and your character. Deadlock's map is asymmetric, but has mirrored geometry and objectives. There are 3 lanes, making every lane a 2 vs 2 for the first 5 to 10 minutes of each match. Every 30 seconds, a wave of 4 AI troopers will fight their way down each lane. Managing trooper waves is not only one of the best sources of souls in the game, but is also incredibly important to your team's map control and mobility. Control over zip lines is determined by how far your troopers have pushed down the lane versus your enemy's troopers. Drawing a line between zip lines can give you a fair idea as to your team's map control, however, this can change quickly. Currently, Deadlock has no vision boards, making communication incredibly important for tracking enemy players. There is voice chat, use it. Protecting each lane is a Guardian, Walker, and 2 base Guardians. Destroying these objectives allows you to push your trooper wave deeper into enemy territory, giving your team space to compete for other objectives. Boxes and golden statues are scattered across the map. Breaking boxes gives you a small amount of souls, while golden statues give you permanent stats. Collect as many as you can while you move around the map. Between lanes, you'll find neutral camps of varying difficulty that can be farmed for additional souls. Each lane has slot machines where you can trade health for souls and 4 statue buffs given correct timing of a heavy melee. Watch the lights at the top. Souls collected through breakables, neutral camps, and slot machines will be held on your character as unsecured souls. If you die with unsecured souls, they will drop to the ground for other players to secure. You can spend unsecured souls, however, they are spent after your secured souls. Time your trips to the shop to minimize your risk and capitalize on item power spikes. Check out this video from Deathy on power spikes for more info. Every 5 minutes, a buff will spawn on top of the bridges between the lanes. These may buff your weapon, abilities, health, or movement, providing sizable advantages. Every 10 minutes, a soul urn will spawn. The first soul urn always spawns on the yellow lane and will switch sides for each subsequent spawn. The soul urn must be delivered across the map. The team that turns in the urn claims a large amount of souls and a random golden statue buff for every player. If a team is more than 10% behind in souls, the drop-off point will be in their territory, giving them a better chance to contest. In the middle of the map, under the mid lane, lurks the mid-boss. Spawning after 10 minutes, it requires significant team investment to take down. The mid-boss will roar at 70% health, alerting the entire map, and upon death, a rejuvenator crystal will slowly descend into the pit. Once it completes its descent, any player can heavy melee it to secure a rejuvenator ticket for their team. When your team has a rejuvenated ticket, the next player to die will be revived after 3 seconds. Each player can only consume 1 rejuvenated credit per mid-boss. And that brings us to the end of my introduction to Deadlock. It is a phenomenal game. It requires knowledge, mechanical skill, communication, and teamwork to win. I hope this video encouraged you to give Deadlock a go. It's great fun, and only getting better every day. For more Deadlock content, I recommend checking out these creators. Deadlock is a young but thriving community full of great people ready to help you learn and play. The 6th round of the Asia Pacific Pro League tournament is coming up on February 7th and 8th, so be sure to tune in to Deadlock APAC on Twitch. And of course, the Deadlock Night Shift is on every week, featuring the top teams from EU and NA. If you're in Oceania and you're looking to learn, go in the Mystics Community Discord, link in bio. We host tournaments, coaching, and Lemons Weekly Squash, a streamed weekly tournament for those wanting to try competitive play. If you're looking for a similar community for NA or EU, I suggest joining Deathy's Death Slam Events Discord. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a follow on Twitch and YouTube. Thanks for watching, good luck, and have fun.